Hi, welcome to Learning Leaders Spotlight, the podcast where we interview the learning leaders of today to give great advice to the future learning leaders in corporate America. I'm your host, Leanne Langford. I'm the president of Training Pros. Training Pros is a contract L&D staffing company. And we like to say when you have more projects than people, let us find you the best consultant to start your project with confidence. I have a great guest today. I've known her for a very long time, Suneeta Mishra. She is the Director of Learning and OD at Equifax. Welcome, Suneeta.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
We're thrilled to have you here. So if you would introduce yourself to our audience, give us about a 60-second overview of who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm a learning and development professional who has been working with various organizations in and around the Atlanta area for, over 20 years now, in various capacities. Started off as a learning specialist and went on to manage small to medium to large teams. And I really am passionate about creating learning cultures that enable continuous skill development and nurture a growth mindset, ultimately leading to company performance. And presently, I'm focused on designing, developing, as well as implementing leadership training for our senior leaders.
That sounds very interesting. I love leadership training. It's one of the more fun projects as a designer. Fill in our audience. What was it that first attracted you to the field of learning and development?
Well, I started off as an HR generalist way back in India and then moved here about 25 years back to Atlanta. So I found myself, I would say, increasingly being attracted towards L&D after a chance stepping in as a facilitator for a new hire training long back. And I believe that enhancing your skills and knowledge is really the only way to grow as a person as well as a professional. So when I see the light bulbs go off during a training session, and when people come back and tell me, hey, I learned something new in your program, or, the concepts that you were discussing in class, I went back and this is how we implemented it, or this is how my team benefited from it. That is really why I stayed on in this profession. So I like to think of myself as a catalyst for some kind of a change, so a change enabler. And the more precise manner in which we can identify the skill gap, I think that's the way we are going to be helpful and we are going to contribute to that skill development. I'm really very passionate about what I do. And I think it's a great thing when you can find people who will pay you for your passion.
That is a great thing. It makes every day is fun at work instead of a drudgery. It's fantastic. So you've been in the L&D industry a long time, like a lot of us. What are the biggest changes you've seen in L&D over the last few years?
I think there are a couple which has impacted the L&D world in a very, very transformational way. The first is very obvious, the digital transformation and blended learning platforms. The digital tools are on steroids right now, or maybe AI-enabled steroids, as I like to call it. The ease with which we shifted to a blended learning curriculum is quite remarkable. Even die-hard believers in traditional instructor-led training like me had to really pivot in a very, very fast way during the COVID-19 pandemic. And the tools we used to use, and you know it as well as I do, how much they have changed, right from using the voices, tailoring it to our audience needs and specifically their learning styles. I think that is just amazing. It has become much more easier now, I think, to have a more customized approach to learning. After all, the way I learn and the way my daughters learn are totally different. And I have like a millennial and Gen Z at home, so you can imagine. It's just fascinating to me to see how differently even both my daughters learn. Now, the second impactful change, I think, is the AI revolution. So, what we know now and how we are using it is really what I think a tip of the iceberg. deep learning really uses complex neural networks with multiple layers, allowing us to understand a vast amount of complex data in real time. I think AI is really going to change the way we look at learning and the way we approach the potential of a person and also the learning needs. That having said, I think conceptually you should be very, very clear. You have to have a really good grasp of what is the skill gap. And it is not just the skill gap, but do I want to grow in that manner? Do I want to learn in this manner in order to use the tools which are the most effective for your training?
Those are the two biggest changes that I've noticed impacting us, absolutely. And I'm glad you did talk about the shutdown and how much it did impact L&D. It completely changed the requests we were getting from clients. Suddenly, we have to help them convert classes from classroom to online and help them teach the facilitators how to facilitate online instead of in the classroom and give them assistance with a producer. And I can't imagine what it was like to be leading a big instructor-led training team when the shutdown happened.
Yes, it was quite, I would say, quite stressful in a way, but gosh, the amount we learned and the way we, just everybody just rolled up their sleeves and just jumped in. It was quite amazing to watch.
It was. We were very agile and we pivoted quickly, so I loved it. So, on the next turn of that question, where do you think we're going to be going in the next 5 years in L&D?
Again, I would repeat, AI is really poised to totally revolutionize, as I see it at least, the learning landscape in future. And to quote Sal Khan of Khan Academy, it is a good day. I can already see a tremendous reduction in the time it takes for us to develop training, especially curating content. And a lot of routine tasks, I think, can be executed with tremendous precision right now almost at a click of a button. Now, learning will, as I see it in future, of course, I mean, we would all love to have a crystal ball. So maybe after 5 years, you're going to be interviewing me again and saying, hey, Suneeta, remember you told me this, but it never happened. But I think learning is going to be more personalized in future. It's almost going to be like your fingerprints. So I think the way no two fingerprints are the same, even if you have a twin, I think it is going to be, we would want and we would finally be able to execute totally customized just for you kind of a training. I would love to give it a nice buzzword, but I'm sure somebody smarter than me will come up with something. But the AI folks who actually develop and implement learning can actually do this. As we move, as I like to see it, from information age to a conceptual age, as we call it, the second big thing that I foresee is the higher need to train people on the right brain side of training. So traditionally, the left brain was supposed to be the one to predict success at work, your STEM, and it always had a higher place than, things like creativity but I think with the highly evolving technology, the right brain dominance is going to become a superpower, so to speak. So things like critical thinking, storytelling, empathy, finding meaning in what you work, and we saw a little snippet of that during the pandemic. You heard of the great resignation. People are like, I don't want to do this anymore, or I want to work for an employer which takes care of, my creative self. And, they really started doing totally different things. They went on a completely different career path. So I think that is where the skill gap of the future is going to be, and which will need to be bridged. So those are the two very distinct things that I think is going to happen in future.
Those definitely what you're describing. I'm having these sci-fi movie picture images come to my head of coming to work in the morning saying, well, hello, computer. I want to learn about this today.
You can actually almost do it with ChatGPT, create a content for a e-learning module on creativity, and it's just you have something, for you.
That's amazing. So let's shift gears again and thinking about the people listening who might need some career advice. What career advice would you give to somebody just entering the L&D field today?
Well, for somebody who's starting new in the area of L&D, well, welcome. I would say you really are on a cusp of sort of a great knowledge or a content revolution. Knowledge is now available via a plethora of curated AI generated resources, but you still got to be able to think and figure things out. I would say don't start off with specializing in a particular area because L&D is a really broad term, and there are it as well as I do. There are 2,000 things that you can do within the L&D space. But I think at the initial stages of your career, do a lot of things, lot of different things. Try to be a generalist initially so that you can really focus and you know what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and you can grow. And above all, before you really decide, think long and hard. Is this something which is going to sustain me for a long, long time? Supposing I started off as an instructional designer or creating content, how I created content 20 years back and how I create content now, there's a huge, huge difference. So be ready to adapt and pivot. I think that is very, very, very important. You can't say, oh, but I just do things this way. I am going to just develop instructor-led training and I'm not going to do anything else. I think adaptability is really going to decide among the winners and the also rans. I think that is very important. And above all, I really think that have your internal GPS, as I call it, so you know where you're going, but be careful where you water, because I think the grass is the greenest where you water it, not really on this side or that side. So I won't take credit for that quote. I just read it somewhere and it just stayed with me. And I think it makes a lot of sense.
It does. I love that advice. Adaptability is the word of the decade right now because things are changing so rapidly. Anyone who's not able to adapt is going to be struggling. I believe that. And we've been in the L&D world a long time. When I first joined the L&D world, we didn't call it e-learning and it was very expensive. So you never got to do that. So we didn't even bother. And I had to adapt to that, of course, throughout my career because it was suddenly, well, we can afford one course a year. And then another program comes out and suddenly we can afford a course a week. And so changes happen so rapidly today. And with the AI here, adaptability is the word of the year.
Yes, definitely. I agree.
Absolutely. So where do you get your industry news?
This is a tricky question. It's your trick question, I know. I would say just one word, people. Okay, so let me clarify that. I love STERM and ATD and subscribe to them. I love reading the newsletters, the articles, the T plus D magazine, and I've been with them for a while now, for over 20 years. I like attending their conferences. I've even presented papers, and I'm very, very diligent about the breakout sessions. I'm one of those people who's going to highlight all these sessions that I want to do and I want to attend and get all the information. I'll probably stay back and bug the speaker for 10 extra minutes. But the thing is, when I meet there, I personally learn the most from meeting people because it's no longer theoretical then. They have actually taken those concepts, they have adapted it, they have applied it in different companies. And I have personally benefited it as well. Long, long back when I used to work for a different company, we were struggling to build an e-learning platform. And I remember there was this gentleman from Jiffy Lubes who actually spoke to us. And I just sent an email to him, via LinkedIn, and he immediately responded. He had a 2-hour conference call with us those days and helped us figure out how we can get one of those open, free learning systems where we can. It's a small example, but I think, these people are really where I get most of my industry news information. And I meet these people everywhere in conferences, networking events, even for signing up for some programs. You have a virtual community out there who are just so helpful. It's almost like your tribe, which you form and you learn so much. And this learning community, I think, fuels your own continuous learning, which I personally have found very, very helpful.
Thank you for that. What one book would you recommend for someone wanting to move into a learning leader role?
Now, this is a really, really hard question because I love books and I'm constantly, reading. I'm part of a book club and it's a lot. I love books specifically. But since your question is, I think you asked about what I would recommend for L&D leadership. I'm just going to go a little extra and recommend two books. One is, of course, Hidden Potential by Adam Grant. I think it is amazing. He talks about embracing a growth mindset, resilience, and fostering meaningful connections to really grow. I think I'm a huge fan of Adam Grant anyway. So I think that book really speaks to us as learning professionals, saying that, hey, just because the traditional ways of evaluating training or evaluating a person is so dependent on a paper pencil test, that's not really the way to do it. And just because somebody is coming from a background which you are not familiar with, it's not okay to write them off. Everybody has potential. How we nurture it, I think it is specifically important for people who are in the L&D space like us. And he gives countless examples. The way he writes it is also very engaging. I really like that. Now, the second book is a book called Brave New Words. So that is pretty recent. It is by Sal Khan of the Khan Academy. He talks about how AI is going to transform education, making it more accessible, more open, really high quality education, and why that is a good thing. He also talks about ethics, how we are going to be using that data and for what end result. But I found that I read that book recently and I thought, wow, this is something which all of us should be reading. It's very topical, very, very good style of writing as well, which makes you want to turn the pages.
So I do want to read that one because the Khan Academy was such a big game changer. And if they have if he's written a book to explain where we're going, I want to read that one for sure. Definitely. Thank you for those recommendations.
Yep.
So, Sunita, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for joining us today on our podcast. We really appreciate it. I know a lot of people will get some good information from this. As a thank you, we're going to plant 5 trees in your name.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That makes me so happy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're planting in Canada right now, and we'll send you a certificate showing you that we planted 5 trees in your name as our thank you to you. That's our charity here at Turning Pros. We plant trees. We've planted over 3,500 trees to date.
Oh, I did not know that. Do you call it something or just,
So we
for sustainability, and
it is
I'm so happy and delighted actually you're doing that for the planet.
well, thank you. Yeah, no, we're trying to be a carbon neutral company. We're virtual. We don't use paper. We plant trees. And of course, in our personal lives, we can do all kinds of things, but all those types of things can add up over time. But yeah, we're planting trees and we partner with a company called One Tree Planted. So we provide the money. They get people to donate the saplings. They get volunteers to plant the trees, and it just makes a big difference in the world. So,
Awesome.
well, thank you so much. And I have enjoyed our conversation. I hope everybody joins in for our next episode of Learning Leaders Spotlight.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye-bye.